You know, most people believe that this isn't a religious endeavor. All things are religious. So don't think that you're not. Being human is a religious experience. And I could definitely tell you one thing, that we are cut off from what that really means. At the end of the day, everything comes down to what you were raised with. What were the beliefs that you had? Were you raised Catholic? Were you raised Jewish? Buddhist? Or are you just secular? All of those things are lies. Not saying that you weren't raised that way. But the real lie is that that's all there is. You know, when working with my clients, I really realized something, which was a majority of conversations that we have are genuinely in relationship to the things that they believe that they've been raised with. And so we understand that there are places that educate us. They educate us, but they shape our beliefs, and those beliefs shape our lives. And then if we don't confront those beliefs, then our lives are being created by beliefs that we don't even know we understand. And so this is a very popular or very important question to ask yourself, which is, if I don't know what I believe, then I unconsciously believe things I don't know. So that's very dangerous, especially in a world where your beliefs are very important. So this made me really realize something here, which is, hey, you know, at the end of the day, if this is a very religious experience, meaning, what does it mean to be religious? And I feel like, maybe I should even get rid of that. This is a divine experience. And often we separate our humanity from the ideal. Now, there's something very interesting here. If you're unaware of your humanity, you will use the ideal as a shield to avoid your humanity. Very similar to across the board for most religious sects, most institutions, which is pretty much, if you follow this and you're dark, and everything that you need to be away from is the dark because you just need to keep choosing life, then eventually you fear dark, choose light, and you don't even connect to it. So then, of course, what happens? What's the big problem with our generation nowadays? Your children don't even connect to your values. How do you know? You're watching this video. You're looking for something, a system of values. You don't even know what's intrinsic. You're confused. You feel like all these thoughts that come in and the idea, even the word truth begins to piss you off. I used to feel the same way. I used to understand that, growing up, I was raised as an Orthodox Jew. Now that's not very easy, especially when you begin to understand, one thing that Jews applaud themselves more than anything is thinking they have had it down. You don't even own your own land. So you could already see a disconnect between them knowing it all and then the things that are happening, right? Okay, now for example, you could take Catholicism or Christianity. Most people who claim they believe in Jesus don't even believe in Jesus. Most people aren't even real Christians. They haven't even read the 5 books of Moses that even allows the New Testament to exist. And then you start going around realizing that most religious people in general don't even know their religious texts. And by the way, don't even connect to it when they know it. Because everything in their whole life has been about the rejection of who they are. Now, this problem hasn't just existed in a religious environment. It exists in a secular environment too. It's just the same thing in the opposite direction. It's the overcorrection of the same problem, which is no humanity. Now, what does it mean to have humanity? And I was working with my client today and something really important came up. And it was something very important that I want to share with you. A lot of the time, we don't even know what we believe. We don't even know what to believe is true. You're almost just listening to somebody else. I will have failed as a coach and as a mentor if I cannot help you understand that you connect with it outside of me. Very important question to ask yourself. Do conservative ideals exist because of conservative ideals? Or there's something that exists outside of those ideals that we call truth that conservative ideals connects to and even liberal ideals connects to? So now we start to understand things without the bubbles that you're given and presented, and you start to realize that perhaps the bubble you were born into, it's your job to free yourself from it, and by the way, here's the kicker, without rejecting everything in the bubble, but being able to differentiate between what keeps you in there and what's true. Most people are too busy trying to get out, so when they do, they float out into the void of space and they have nothing and they become nihilistic, and then that becomes their own bubble. So when discovering your beliefs, you almost need to be able to discover with whatever place you are in, if Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, spiritual, Hindu, where's the truth there? And now you're gonna love this. What's true isn't always what you feel. What you feel is typically how you find what's true. And you're probably like, well, how does that make sense? If you don't consider your humanity in relationship to the ideal, you will never evolve the ideal past what has been said. At the end of the day, we understand that we do have these ideals. Maybe it's in masculine and feminine, and we struggle so much to reach them. So instead what we do is we mimic them. And so I really want you guys to understand even a very powerful biblical story. And this biblical story is going to really kind of rattle the way that you see yourself. There are men that connect with God, and then there are men who mimic men that do. So now before you go ahead and think, oh, I could just pick up the 5 books of Moses, or pick up Marcus Aurelius, or pick up the Quran or the New Testament, and think about this for a second. Even if I did, how would I connect to it? Meaning, am I just using this to mimic somebody who connects to this source that allows wisdom to exist? Or connect to the source, and consider yourself in relationship to the ideals that are being presented. So one of the most powerful stories is actually the story of Abraham and Lot. If you guys are familiar with this, I'd love to go ahead and share it with you. So Abraham has a nephew, Lot. Lot is with Abraham, and Abraham is considered one of the forefathers. And understanding the biblical arc is that God made promises to people that sought him, that sought truth, that gave the future generations a promised land. Just to show how powerful it is to be somebody who's really seeking truth. So there's almost a level of faith in the way that you're created. And that's something I do believe, that we are made in the image of God. And if that's the case, you can find God. You are not lacking what you are seeking. And it's a very powerful quote. What you seek is what you must come with. What you are seeking, you already have. So you're not lacking this ability to understand truth. And honestly, right now, what you're told is don't trust those. Nope. Those feelings that come up in relationship to the things that are being presented to you that make you go, it tastes like shit. It probably tastes like shit. But you want to know the kind of gaslighting that we're experiencing as a society nowadays is that people give you spoonfuls of shit, they eat it, and you go, oh, it tastes like shit. And they go, no, it's not. It's chocolate. And you're like, okay. And you're eating spoonfuls of shit, being taught to believe that it's chocolate. Until other people go, you go, shut the f up, man. I'm enjoying my chocolate. So conditioning runs deep. But if you don't consider the experiences that you have and the pain that you experience in those experiences, you'll never be able to see reality for what it is. The reason why I really promote overcoming traumas, fears, and insecurities is so that you can see reality as the individual that you are. We need you. You need you. Your family needs you. And we need you outside of your immature projections so that you can be constructively part of building a new world. A world where children can be loved by their parents that love each other. That's not a crazy ideal, is it? That you can actually connect to something that you were born to do, opposed to do things that other people say you should. Maybe some deeper connection. And so the biblical patriarchs represent a connection in a world after the flood. A world where it was drowned under. It was reset. There were very few people that knew. But those who look are the ones that get a connection with God. So before you go ahead and you start judging what should I find as truth, ask yourself a real question. Do I want to find the truth? Stop using that word and ask yourself a real question. What part of me doesn't want to find the truth? And then you'll realize that you don't want to find the truth, but you just run your mouth saying that every 5 seconds. So Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are the biblical patriarchs, and Lot was one of the ones in perfect opposition of Abraham, to give you guys an understanding of duality. So Abraham is somebody who connects to God on an individual level and is willing to go for himself outside of his family's home on a journey. He was made a promise, and that promise is that you will be promised and blessed with a nation more numerous than the stars in the sky and the sands of the earth. And I'll give you a land for them. Meaning a place of salvation, a home, a security, a place to be safe, a place to be embraced. But really, if you look at the biblical story, there was no Bible then. And now you're kind of like, okay, I'm getting it. So you're saying that if I had the willingness and the purity behind that, meaning the sincerity behind my willingness to investigate the parts of me that are divine and see how that's mirrored in the world. When I see stars out there, I see stars in here. When I see beauty, I understand the beauty I can bring. And everything around you is igniting something inside of you. And so the story does a really good job of this. Abraham is that individual. He is the person who is willing to go through with the connection with an open heart. It's the representation of the circumcision that he then later has. No separation between the aspect of you that is most sensitive. And that was the covenant that he made. So if you want to know who Lot is like, I'll give you an idea of who Lot is like. Lot is mimicked righteousness, mimicked virtue, mimicked connection. How do you know? Well, stories will tell you that. We understand that Abraham has fought wars and he's fought his wife back from kings that sought her. He has sacrificed parts of himself to get closer to something called truth that sets him free to experience a meaningful life. And so now, there's this one story where Sodom and Gomorrah is a place that God is going to destroy. And there's the very famous, I'll always say very famous. Yeah, it's the New York Times bestseller. This is literally what we walk on. God tells Abraham, I'm going to destroy the city, and then Abraham responds back, which is to show you the level of connection he has to his own humanity, that he would even protect a city from being destroyed when God said it. And I know a lot of us think that, when God tells us something, we have to just accept it. No. Be like your patriarchs. Connect to the aspect of you that's like God, and then talk with him. And so he says, hey, if there were 40 righteous men, would you save the city? And by his question, he was able to investigate the humanity of the divine. And he goes, no, I would not. If there were 30, would you destroy it? No, I would not. If there were 20, would you destroy it? No, I would not. If there were 10 righteous men, would you destroy it? And then God leaves the scene. So you see your ability to take the parts of you that feel, hey, I don't want you to do that, or would allow you to get closer to the divine. So perhaps the resistance you have to the aspects of your own nature that you just don't want to face or accept are exactly where you need to go to understand the divinity in the drive. If you never accept the aspect of you that wants to go to sex parties, you'll never find the part of you that wants to find connection, intimacy, divinity. And so now it goes back to Lot. Lot's in the city. And of course, the angels come down to save Lot. And they go, Lot, you got to go. God's turning this city under. And he goes, wait, no, my guests. And this is also another thing about Abraham, is that he was very hospitable. It's a part of even Muslim cultures. It's a very big part of that Abrahamic tradition. And they go, we got to get you out of here. We're turning the city under. And he goes, no, please sit down, have bread to eat. And they're like, hey, buddy, city's going to go. Do you want to leave, or do you want to go under with the city? And as that happens, the people of the city surround Lot's home, and they start banging on the door. Give us those men so that we may know them. In other words, it pretty much means, let me f*** those people that are in your house. Already showing the depravity there. And what does Lot do? Lot goes, wait, please, men, take my virgin daughters that nobody has known, and do not trouble my guests. And of course, the angels at that point go, okay, you might be the equivalent of the people here, but you're at least trying, and dips him out. But of course, the wife turns into a pillar of salt. Whole lot of symbolism there, probably. Whole lot to talk about if you wanted me to go over all the stories. You look at the absurdity of Lot's character, but you also realize the duality in relationship to Abraham. What's the difference between them? They both talk about good things. Hey, seat your guest, feed them. But one's backwards. And so often what we're forgetting here is the person that's backwards is the one that denies the aspects of him that loves his daughters more than some strangers. So you see that there's the aspect of our humanity that if not brought in, and although it is dark, although it is confusing, although it is perhaps maybe hard to understand, if you accept it, then you could begin to integrate it into your life and then consider it. Our humanity is all we have if we really want to think about it. What's been taught now that has been hurting us collectively as a people, as mankind, is that we are told that our humanity no longer has a place in the face of the ideal. And so there are people who continue to live their life rejecting all of what they are, claiming the ideal and all the virtue behind it as they become culprits to the problem. This isn't what I want. What I really would love to inspire in every single one of you is that you guys can feel what it's like to be an individual and how special that is. And to not have to reject all the aspects of you that are here that you can connect with. And so, do you know, my client was very lost today, and I told him, I said, hey, what are your ideals? And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, do you want to be married and have children? Yeah. Do you want a beautiful life that you love, admire, and connect with on a very deep level? Yeah. Do you want to see the parts of you aspiring towards a life where you're connected to it? And he goes, yeah. Do you want to be a very masculine man? And he goes, yeah. And I said, hold that close, and every day that you're not, consider both parties. How you're not, and how that is. And then consider all the resistance as to why you're not. And you'll learn a lot about you. At the end of the day, if you reject the ideal, you reject your humanity. If you reject your humanity, you reject the ideal. But once we begin to realize that the fruits that we wish to bear are on the other side of the deepest desires, which are the most connected to something infinite. You are the path towards the new world of the beauty that you desire, with all of what you are, collectively with the ideal. And somebody who cares is somebody who questions the ideal in relationship to their humanity and their humanity in relationship to the ideal. We live so much of our life pushing away these forces, and then we become susceptible to the ones that know better. I want you to be strong. I want you to be connected with your values. And every day that you ask yourself a question, and this was one of the things that made it very important, a lot of the time we think that our humanity won't be seen if we didn't have an ideal. The Greeks took it literally, made in the image of God. And because of that, you now have what bodybuilding and sculpting your body and making it something beautiful. So wouldn't you say there's humanity in that as much as there is humanity in the child that is not developed with the muscles? So it's almost like you have an ideal, and because of that ideal, it brings out the best in you and the parts of your humanity that are great, because that's exactly where greatness comes from. We think about good sex, and often some people just think of it in quantity until they experience quantity and then go, whoa, I need something more. Isn't that the question? So the humanity in relationship to something more is exactly what brings more out of humanity and allows the ideal to exist in reality. And you no longer need to be living a fantasy. When you begin to realize the question we all ask ourselves all the time, every day, and the reason why you were raised and why you are here is, what is my purpose? Why does my life matter? What does matter? Why am I here? What do I need to connect with that I am a part of? All of these questions set us free from a lot of the institutional manipulation in the name of religiosity. We are ritualistic beings and always have been. And our deep, deep desire for something outside of ourselves is because that's what brings the best out of ourselves and that allows this life to mean something.